Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix and something a little bit different for the channel today. A couple people I know are having a lot of problems with the zombies mode in Black Ops 3, in particular being able to get to later rounds. Now this is not going to be a Easter egg or get all the items video like you see on a lot of other channels. This is going to be general strategy and exactly what to do in the early rounds, where you should focus your points on, and in particular what you should be focusing on, what items to get and so forth in order to get into those later rounds. Now I'm consistently hitting round 20, 21, 25 without a lot of problems in my single player campaign, so I do think I have an understanding of where you should be focusing at this point. So here's some information for those who are having trouble with Black Ops 3 zombies. Now let's talk about early game goals. Your early game goals are as follows. You're going to want to get to the Pack-a-Punch machine as soon as possible, but you're also going to want to get Juggernaut and a reasonable gun at this point. Now the way you're going to do this is that in round 1, you're going to open up Nero's Landing and get that first ritual out of the way, because it's easy to knife people at that point, and being able to open up that first ritual is going to really help at this point. Rounds 2 and 3 are points making rounds. What you're going to do is specifically earn some points by using a number of shots on the zombies and then stabbing them in the head. That's the maximum amount of points that you can get at this point. Not headshots, but actually stabbing them in the head. A headshot's worth 100, while a stab is worth 130. In round 2, it takes 3 bullets and a stab. 5 bullets and a stab in round 3. Get the maximum amount of points because you're going to need every single point in order to unlock those rituals quicker than you were before. Even building up buildings or opening up the pods to maybe get a zombie to spawn there is useful because, again, any little points count at this early going. Now, round 4 should be the time you do the second and third rituals at this point. The reason why is that when you do the second ritual and you get the Mwaga that spawns there, you're going to get enough points to be able to do the third ritual in question. So you'll knock both of those out in one round. Round 4 will be a sort of decisive round in that essence. Now, the fourth and final ritual that you'll have to do, it will depend on whether or not you get the bug round in round 5 or 6. The thing is that you don't want to do the rituals during the bug round. The reason why is that if in the case of the one zombie strategy where you have one zombie trailing you and you're dealing with those ritual rooms, if it's a bug and it dies because of the explosion at the end of the round, the next round starts, as opposed to a zombie that dies because of that explosion. Again, a lot of the times that I see people fail in zombies maps is when the round unexpectedly starts, that you're not prepared for the next round, and then all of a sudden you're getting swarmed in a place that maybe you didn't want to be, or you didn't have the equipment to be able to deal with. So that is important for when you choose to use the fourth ritual. Now, you're not going to go to the Pack-a-Punch machine right away because you probably won't have the points. You're probably going to wait till round 7. Now, round 7 is going to be when you're specifically going to get the Pack-a-Punch machine and get your first upgraded gun. Now, the reason why is that this is where the sort of enemies start to pick up in terms of a lot of damage that you're going to have to do, and it will give you that weapon that will be able to get you out of situations. There are certain weapons that will still be useful, even not Pack-a-Punched early on, like, you know, things like the Dingo. But the thing is that you'll have that weapon in your sort of your back pocket, so that when you run into a sort of terrifying situation where you're cornered, you could pull out that upgraded gun and be like, okay, I'm ready to go. Now, in terms of the vending machines, you should have a specific order in question. And remember, the way that this game works, you can always find out where each vending machine is by looking at the colored bottles in front of the gates that you have to open for each area. Red being Juggernaut, green being Speed Cola, yellow being Double Tap. Obviously, Juggernaut is supposed to be the one that you're going to go for first, and of course, it is the one you should go for first. Even though at first I thought Juggernaut wasn't as important in this game, you have to understand that Juggernaut is very important because of the way zombies hit you in the game. The thing is that in this game in particular, more than any other game, a zombie can hit you twice very easily if you're running by them. Earlier, you would get situations where you get double hit twice, but that usually was because of the way of the angle that they were coming at. Usually, if you ran by him, you wouldn't get hit like you do in this game. I found myself getting hit, you know, twice, 3 times very easily by a zombie if I'm running by them or circling around them at that point. And that's why Juggernaut is so important. Now, this is going to depend on whether or not you're playing solo or playing with multiple people. If you're playing solo or you're playing a general strategy, the second drink that you should get is Double Tap. Not fast reload, but Double Tap. The thing is that double tap in this game makes a huge difference. The amount of damage you need to do to a zombie increases as rounds go along, and you'll find that you're able to take zombies out with one good shot because of double tap. Unlike in other games where it would go through your ammo very quickly, that's not the case here, and so double tap is actually more important than ever. Now you can, if you're single player, go for the revive at this point because of its low cost. I usually get it after I do the main rituals, just because if I fail in those first rituals, I really shouldn't be trying to go on for the next rounds there. Now, if you're playing with multiple people, it's going to depend on what you guys want to do. For example, Widow's Wine, for example, is a great way to keep somebody up. It's able to slow a zombie at that point. And maybe if you have one person get Widow's Wine and the other person get fast reload, aka speed cola, that will help in terms of one person doing the damage and one person focusing on staying alive with multiplayer aspects. In terms of a single player, you're going to get fast reload most of the time, but the thing is that Widow's Wine really does help in terms of sort of survivability. And gumballs that you're able to get, especially the one that gives you an extra perk, will be important as well if you're able to actually add Widow's Wine to it. Another big area I see people fail in is the ritual rooms, and the reason why is that it's when the zombie dies. Now again, like every other game, you always want to keep one zombie up to do whatever you need to do. Let him, follow you, train him at that point, and deal with him. In these ritual rooms, they're very small and compact areas, and in particular with the way that ghosts come at you, it's very easy for you to shoot a ghost and not realize that the zombie's right next to him or right there on top of him, and you end up killing him during that ritual, causing the next round to start and causing a hell of a lot of zombies to come up. Even though it's in the early rounds and you may be able to deal with it, that's where you may get caught. And again, Juggernaut, before you do the second and third rituals, will help because of those multi-hit aspects of it. So again, you got to be careful on how you move around the room as well. You're going to want to train more rather than just go at the ghosting question, especially in single player. In particular with the theater, you'll have to understand that just moving around won't do enough. You're going to have to wait a second for them to sort of come towards you and then move around to sort of train them at that point. So keep that in mind when getting into ritual rooms. Now, I've seen a lot of people say don't bother with the zombie shield in terms of getting it as a weapon. And as a weapon, yes, it's not worth your time in order to build it, but there is one other reason that you should actually build the zombie shield, and that is to be able to protect yourself from damage. I have seen specific situations where a zombie gets behind someone and the one hit that could have taken you down got absorbed by the shield on your back. Yes, the shield on your back actually will take damage for you. So the thing is, it is actually more of a defensive weapon more than anything else because of the nature of the zombies hitting you at this point. In terms of area-specific strategies, you always really want to start the game off in the middle if you can. Now, there are going to be some exceptions to that rule, especially when you're trying to build a sword and upgrade it with the egg, but in particular, when you're dealing with, let's say, the rituals at the end of the game, and you have to use those, spots around the map, you don't want to actually go to those spots first. You want to go after you've killed everybody else like normal. Now, that seems like, okay, that's sort of standard for the zombie series, but in particular, you're always going to want to be around this middle area, despite other areas having larger sections to it. And the reason why is that there are so many escape routes here, and in particular ways that you can run and circle around at this point. The pillar in particular at this point makes a lot of sense in terms of being able to force two paths and being able to run towards one and not the other at this point to help train zombies. There are a lot of escape paths here, with the exception of the initial alley that you start with, because that really just leads to a nowhere zone. And if you get the jump on the zombies at that point, running down any other hallway won't have a bunch of zombies, sort of there ready to, attack you at that point, because they'll have to wait to spawn. So you always stay in this middle area, and in particular, I would stay towards the Juggernaut wherever it is on that area at that point. Usually the canal zone is where I like to see myself there, because I like to escape there first, mostly because there's a lot of area to work with, and even though there is some sections that I can get into trouble, I feel like I've got a lot of escape choices. Now, a lot of people fear the Mwaga, the three-headed boss, but you shouldn't. The thing is that the boss by himself isn't that difficult to deal with. What he's difficult to deal with is in conjunction with zombies, and in particular, that last zombie. The last zombie will be running at you most of the time, and so will the Mwaga. At first, because of how slow he is, the zombie's going to get a bit of distance on him, and so you're going to want to circle around and get the shots on him before he gets towards the middle speed for his second head. The second head is actually the most difficult to deal with because of the fact that they'll be both sort of running at the same distance, most likely, in terms of speed, and you're going to have to be very careful on how you shoot. You don't want that other zombie to go down because, again, you'll get swarmed at the start of the next round. The third one is actually easier because of the fact that he removes so fast and compared to the other zombie, and you can just outrun the other zombie in question and get the distance on him in order to go, knock that third head off at that point. In this case of the sword is your panic weapon. This is basically the weapon you will pull out when you get it to be able to deal with a bunch of zombies. Now, be careful. You can go down easily because the sword of its arc, and you're able to walk into a zombie that's about to hit you. But if you sort of stay back and sort of, be moving backwards a little tiny bit while swinging the sword, you'll be fine. The thing is, you should only pull out the sword when you need to, because again, you're getting the points from the gun, and honestly, it's just easier to deal with the distance and be able to run a little bit more. Even though you have the sword, you're able to run at that point. It just feels like you have to be close to the enemies to deal with it. So be careful with the sword. Don't let it sort of trick you into situations. Now, the Beast, in terms of the single-player mode, is really limited to just sort of opening up doors and things like that. The reason why is that if you kill a zombie with a Beast, they seem to respawn with no, problems. You can't end a round with a Beast kill, for example. Now, the thing is with the 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player modes, the bigger important issue here is reviving. As the Beast, you're not going to take damage, and you're able to revive a fallen comrade. That's rather important. Your idea here is just to sort of, get a little bit of distance for your companion that you're going to get up by killing everybody around them, and then get them up so they can run away at that point. The Beast, you can do a couple of times per round, so use that as an insta revive at that point. This is probably why you want to stay near a certain area to be able to activate the pillar in question in terms of even that middle area. Maybe run down the initial hallway to go grab that first one, or towards the exit of the down to the subway at the other end, grab that, be able to lift somebody up at that point. In terms of gun selection, if you have the chance, now it just seems like, for me, the LMGs in this game are a lot better than everything else. Yeah, you got good shotguns, even you have the ray gun, but even the ray gun in this game feels like it has some flaws with it in terms of sort of piercing damage and being able to hit multiple enemies. It feels like the hitbox has been shortened for the ray gun. In the meanwhile, you've got the LMG that seems to do a lot of damage even up close, and again, you have that huge round. Especially if you have speed cola, it's going to be easy to, reload at that point, and honestly, it felt like I was getting a lot of shots. There wasn't the recoil that I expected on the LMGs at this point in time as this video was created. I found myself, going back to it over and over again. Shotguns are great, but they don't earn a lot of points, but they're good for, escape weapons. The assault rifles are your bread and butter, of course, and obviously the sort of secondary weapons are helpful at times, but usually they get you into more trouble more than anything else. Yeah, a rocket launcher can create some crawlers or so, but honestly, in the end, it doesn't seem to make a huge difference. And that's some general survival tips for zombies. Now, I will be playing a little bit more and trying to get a little bit more information for those out there, but for those who are having troubles, hopefully some of these tips will help you get to those later rounds in a general sense. Again, if you're looking for specific strategies in terms of, how to open the box and things like that, go to another video section because I think that's been done pretty extensively already. All right, I will see you all later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this content and want to see more of it, you may want to hit that subscribe button on the left-hand side. If you like this video and want to see more of this content, take a look at this video on the left-hand side as well. And if you missed my last video, take a look at the right-hand side. Once again, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.